So hello, thank you for coming out, and welcome to Making Friends with SVGs. If you want to reach out, my social media is AmitufR. It's my first name backwards with an R. You'll notice I'm not super active on Twitter, but feel free to tweet at me during or after the talk. So I know this title is a little vague, kind of done on purpose, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about in the next few slides. But here is the lay of the land. So we're going to start with a small intro on why this topic, why the software I'm using. In this case, it's going to be Sketch. And then deep dive into Sketch, creating our own illustration, briefly touch on exports and using the SVGs in the wild. And then lastly, a final recap and key takeaways. I talk extremely fast naturally, so I hope I'm not done in 10 minutes. So like all good stories, let's start from the beginning. This is how my journey into illustration started. It was one lonely night on the internet when I was searching how to make friends. Okay, not actually, but I won't judge you if this is your past or future search history. So I find a lot of people who are not illustrators are intimidated by the traditional software, including myself. I never really viewed myself as an illustrator, a designer with a keen eye, sure, but I truly admired colleagues who could illustrate. I was assigned to a project at work creating the marketing site for Augury, which is a Google Chrome developing debugging tool for Angular, so a little shameless plug there. But the idea of creating illustrated SVGs came up for this site, specifically drawing Brad Green, and I had never drawn a person before, so great, there goes all my nights learning Illustrator. At the same time this was happening, one of my good friends, Andrew D'Amelio, who is a software developer and never dabbled into illustrations before, was illustrating iPhone emojis in Sketch. So at the middle screen here, this is a screenshot of Andrew's actual Sketch file called emojiparty.sketch, and those are all SVGs he recreated of iPhone emojis. So I was really blown away at how amazing they all turned out. So I hopped on the Sketch bandwagon, and it was so lightweight and intuitive. And just like Andrew, I was able to pick it up really quick. So I truly believe, especially for a beginner, Sketch is so forgiving and such a clean software to learn. And that's why I focus on Sketch in this and when I'm doing illustrations. So this was my first ever avatar I ever drew, and probably even the first in-depth illustration. It was of Brad Green. And through this avatar iteration, I started to form my own visual style. So people around the office started seeing these illustrations I was doing in Sketch and requesting their own personalized version. I want to say this was pre-Bitmoji or around the time it was starting to blow up, so it was perfect timing. So these are all coworkers and friends that I've drawn over time. The sad face was requested. I'm not a mean person. So shout out to Andrew, Alex, Glafira, Neil, and Wassam for trusting me with their faces. But I was literally making friends with SVGs. So for those of you who use Bitmojis or see illustrations on various platforms online, you'll notice that every designer has their own style. Some avatars have noses, some don't. Some have detailed eyes, others don't have ears. Some are just outlines to create figures. Through experimentation, you'll find your own style. So here's the anatomy that I tend to follow. This is the world-famous Mr. Potato Head, a classic and recognizable face who also happens to be a great framework for avatars. So like us, Mr. Potato Head is made up of features: head, eyes, mouth, a sticking out tongue if he chooses to be rude, but they're components that make us who we are. As we know, not all Mr. Potato Heads come the same. Like us, there's a diverse range of potato heads with distinct features and abilities. We need to be able to represent all these unique characteristics to truly illustrate an avatar. So what makes a good avatar? There are a few key aspects that make avatars special, especially if you're creating it based on someone in real life. face shape, eye positioning, ear size, I know that's weird, but it's true, eyebrows, placement of the sideburns, and distinctive key features. So what I mean by distinctive key features is a t-shirt that person might wear a little too often, a beard, glasses. So what are the physical features that make that person that person? So other than getting an in-depth science lesson on our anatomy, we're going to be illustrating a custom avatar together today to show the power of illustrated SVGs. So let's get started. The first thing you want to do is open Sketch and insert a new artboard. I like to create a large working space so I can add and move around objects in that frame. The size I'm using is a standard HD version, desktop HD version, but it can be changed anytime, so don't fuss around it too much. It's just a great place to start sticking your stuff. So in continuing with the theme of making friends, we will be illustrating one of my good friends and past FITC speaker, Varun Vachar. So this is Varun. He is not only absolutely incredible in this industry, but he is also a great human being. So for those of you who follow his work online or know him personally, you'll definitely appreciate this. So I use a picture of the person I'm creating as a template so I can match the proportions and colors accurately. So before getting into the actual avatar, I create a color palette for the avatar by inserting rectangles and filling them in with face, shadow, hair, and lip colors. These are all chosen using the color picker for the rectangle fill and matching it to the picture. I just let it play once. Perfect. So you'll see I adjusted the colors to be more cooler since in the picture Varun is getting some sun and I wanted indoor lighting that has daylight tones. To make it easier, you can add document colors in Sketch by selecting the color and clicking the plus sign on the side panel. This allows for easy access to color fills. So I use a picture of the person I'm creating as a template so I can match the proportions and colors like I mentioned before. So Sketch works in layers, and I build on top of the image and toggle the hide and show layers when necessary. Some people find this technique cheating, but I genuinely believe there's nothing wrong with using this as a guide, similar to when we were kids and we would have to draw for art class, but we would take the paper to the window and trace on top. I can't be the only one who cheated like that. So to create the head and let's address the elephant in the room, I know it looks like Mr. Potato Head right now, but I promise it won't later on. So I use the oval shape as a base to fit around the face, and I take key points to adjust the size and curves. Though it looks like a simple oval, it is a fundamental step because some people have longer faces, some people will have more square faces, so this base is a framework for the rest of the features. So you'll notice I take the head up a little bit higher than natural. The hair will cover the additional forehead space, but I do it to manipulate where the shadows begin at the top of the head. I also add an inner shadow to create some dimension and subtle depth. I tend to stick with -12x, 13y, 0 blur, and a 12 spread range, but you can adjust this however you feel is natural, leave it out completely. The color of the shadow is a few shades darker than the face, but I keep it in the similar tone range. So at the top of your head, that's key. So if you're bald or not, it's a distinctive feature. Personally, I found this one of the hardest aspects to master. So what I like to do is divide the hair into two sides and overlap it in the middle. I use the oval to begin and quickly add in more key points to form the hair shape. So once the hair was done, I went back and I added some subtle detailing, like the two flyaways that you see on the side. They'll get filled in. It makes the illustration more unique and tailored to that person. I find that often that I will add more key points to the base shape to make the object I want, and later realize that through moving the extensions and playing around with the curves, the same shape can be made with fewer key points. Though when you're just getting started into vector drawing, I see nothing wrong with adding more points until you get more comfortable. So as I create these layers, I name, group, merge like layers together. You can also create symbols in Sketch, but for this I didn't. So naming and grouping layers will make a cleaner SVG export. So doing it now will save you time in the end, and I'll show you an example of this once we're done. So for the hair, I named the top, the side, and the flyaways, and use the union function to combine them with the name hair. So as the next step, I like to add ears. It flows nicely with the head, and then I don't really need to worry about it till afterwards, and I can focus on other features. So for the ears, again, I use the oval as a base. You'll notice this is a theme. And then I add key points to form the dip around the sides and the curves at the bottom. Once I get the ear, I duplicate it, wide draw it twice when you don't have to, and position it in place on the other side of the head. Sometimes if you follow the template image of the person exactly, the ears might be off depending on the picture. So if someone's not standing exactly straight, or their head's tilted, or they're on the side, so use your judgment when you're positioning. As long as the shape is the same size, you'll be fine. So beards are great to draw. It's a defining characteristic of someone. So once that is created, a person starts coming to life in the illustration. Because you want the bottom of the head to line up exactly to the bottom of the beard, the easiest thing to do is duplicate the head and change the color. This ensures everything is lined up perfectly. So using key points and curves, you can move the former head down and start shaping the beard. I turned the head layer off and added an opacity to the beard so I could see Varun's picture underneath and get the right shape down. The key in this is lining up the beard to the sideburns and the hair so it flows naturally together. So with avatars, detailing depends on the designer and their style. For me, I like to add texture to the beard. So in Sketch, there's a fill called noise, which I had never found a use for till now. It kind of looks like the static you would see on old TVs. So I duplicate the beard and add the noise filter on top. And because both the beard layers have an opacity to them, they build nicely on top and create this textured hair look. So now that we have the head, the hair, ears, and beard done, we can move on to some of the finer details. The style of glasses are really similar these days, and the subtle differences in each frame matter. So if the frame is more rounded or larger or a solid color or has a gradient, they all form that style. So though it's just 2 circles and a line, it's a big deal for the personalized avatar. For the frames, I use 2 oval borders to create the lens. And though at first glance, it might look like just 2 circles, the lens has a distinct shape and curves, and curve adjustments were given to give it the full shape. So it's wider at the top and a little narrow at the bottom. To keep it consistent, I duplicated the oval to the other side. The frame sides are done by using a rectangle and adding a point at the bottom middle and moved it up. So I moved the point up where the glasses just go back to the side of the face to give it depth. The nose bridge was done also with a rectangle, and then a point was added at the bottom, and then a curve to make that arc. So for the frames, because they don't have too much detailing, I use the color picker to select the dark brown shade in the picture for the side and the bridge. And then Sketch has a really easy to use gradient fill. So I previously selected the top dark color with a lighter brown to add a subtle color gradient to the lens frame. You can adjust how high or low you want the gradient with its advanced gradient fill. So I selected both the oval lenses layers and apply the gradient to them at the same time. Because they are over top an image, it has different shadowing. And at first I thought I was doing it wrong, and I was like, oh no, my colors don't match. But then when I added the actual head underneath in a flat color, it looked fine. So I think that's gonna happen right there, and there you go. So mouths can be really tricky. Before this, my style was just to add an open mouth on top of a beard, or simply just a curved line for a smile. This time I had to do Varun justice, so the lips were done very precisely. So I start with the bottom lip and use the oval to form the base. Using the key points, I changed the corner edges to straight. so that it creates 2 points at the end of the mouth. Using the image as a guide, I create curves along where the bottom and top meet to make it more realistic. For the top lip, I focus on the Cupid's bow and ensure that it's not being over-exaggerated using softer curves. So to create dimension, I use 2 colors, the top being a few shades darker than the bottom, and then I position the lips onto the illustrated beard. So you'll see that there. And we're going to get really familiar with Varun's face. I zoom in on it a lot. So there we go. So because my illustration style is not to have as detailed eyes, it adds more for a cartoon feel to the avatar. For the eyes, to make the focus on positioning and placement, some eyes are more closer together than others, and though we might not notice this in real life, in an avatar it really makes a difference on how accurate it looks to the person. So I create 2 ovals and size them up to fit more of the eye, not just the pupil, duplicate it, and position it on the other side. Then I adjust the colors to be the same as the person. I'll let it finish again. Oh. So it's oval, and then select the color, and then duplicate it to the other side. So once you have the eyes done, you can stop there or add any additional distinctive features. For Varun, he has a really small beauty mark under his eye at her upper cheek, so I added that small oval to complete the face, and you probably noticed that because I zoomed in so much as well. So we'll see that soon. So it's just a very small oval, and that small little detail, people who know him will be like, oh, that's Varun because it has that detailing to it. So you can stop there or continue the avatar to have some form of body. I like to add a neck and shoulders to give a profile photo feel. So using a rectangle, I create a basic shape for the neck. If you're drawing clothes layered on top, you actually don't need to curve the bottom of the neck, we still just cover it. And then I use a darker shadow to shade the neck, again for contrast and depth. So for clothing, you can really do whatever you desire. I wanted to tribute the amazing Star Wars shirt Varun was wearing. Varun's wife, Avril, actually made it, so that's a really cool thing. So what I did was I used Photoshop and removed the background in the original image, leaving just the shirt behind. Because it's a PNG image, it won't export as a vector. So if you want to keep everything as a true SVG, I would suggest drawing an outfit or making them naked, whatever you want, to package. So to package the avatar nicely, I like to add an oval mask to the image so that it's rounded beautifully and packaged nicely at the bottom. So I do this by adding an oval in the shape that I want and clicking the mask, which will mask or remove all the stuff that's outside that oval. So once I was complete, well, I thought I was complete, I started playing around more and finessing the look and feel. So I added eyebrows and made the creative decision to leave that out. I also adjusted the skin tone to be a little bit deeper and removed the head shadow to complete the full and final look. So we have now seen the evolution of the illustration from fetus to newborn. Each step along the way shapes the characteristic of the person and slowly becomes more and more of what you desire the end product to be. From head, hair, ears, beard, glasses, lips, eyes, body, we have illustrated a custom avatar. So now what? How to use this illustration from Sketch into the real world? This illustration can be used as Slack emojis, printed on stickers, websites for profile cards. My friends and I all have each other's stickers showcased on our laptops. You can see them right here, actually. And who doesn't want a custom Slack emoji? It's super necessary these days. So in Sketch, you're able to export in any format, so JPEG, PNG, SVG. For the SVG, group your image together so that it's contained and export as SVG. Once you export your SVG, you can open the file in any text editor of your choice. So this is the outputted code from the SVG you see here. So remember when I mentioned to label and group your layers before? This is the reason why. So each element is given an ID, and you're able to use those ID tags to manipulate or animate your SVG in code. So you can change the colors or move the positioning through CSS or JavaScript to make the avatar come to life even more. I want to thank Varun for letting him be my model today. He does incredible work, so do check him out as well. So to wrap it all up, here are some key takeaways. So try. If anything comes out of this talk, I want anyone who thinks they can't do it to try it. Illustration can be intimidating, especially if you're not formally trained or know the technical terms for all the elements, but at the end of the day, you're just using software. Command-Z, save it, go back, and iterate. So whether it's an avatar or a flower or your favorite emoji, it's just a bunch of different colored ovals and rectangles. Templates. If you feel more comfortable, use an image as a template. It's not cheating. Templates are a great guide to make you feel at ease in the process and ensure you're on the right track. Customize. Customize and make your illustrations your own. You don't need to copy a style exactly, find your own style and own it. Some of the best art is done in unique forms, and this difference should be showcased. And lastly, make friends. Well, only if you want to. But learn from others, encourage people to share their passions, and inspire others to try. Beautiful things can happen, and you might surprise yourself at how capable you really are. So thank you, and if you would like to learn more about what we do, please reach out to me or visit me outside at the Wrangle booth.